Hey everybody, welcome to the EU-INT newscast. My name is Snor, and we're on YouTube and fun. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the news, been going on, what's been happening in the EU and around it, um, and then I'll just open up to discussion for anyone who wants to. You can raise your hand in Discord. That's on the Form Got Fucking Discord for those listening on YouTube, or you can just type in the YouTube chat and I will read it. So let's have a look. Today's EU news. Let's have a look to get to the right page. So today's EU news. The Ryanair boss said UK will sign a deal paying into the EU budget within 15 years. This is something that we discussed as well. I don't think that'll happen, to be honest. But, you know, maybe he's right. The UK could join the an EFTA-like agreement with the EU, depending, of course, who wins the election next October there. I've put it in the calendar now. So next year's election cycle will be very interesting. We've got the US election, the EU election, the Taiwan election, and also the UK election. So if Labour wins there, I mean, Keir Starmer has said that he probably wouldn't go back into the single market. But I don't know if he can actually keep that promise. We'll see. I think he's just using it as a method to kind of not talk about Brexit, just to keep the Brexiteers nice and quiet. So, you know, I mean, Keir Starmer is when, I don't know if people remember, but when Brexit was going on, it was very much Keir Starmer was very much in the anti-Brexit camp, very, very eloquent on why people should stay in the single market and how the negotiation should go and stuff. And for him to now turn around and say, well, we're never going to go back into the single market is kind of weird. So I think that perhaps that's something that people will be looking at. So let's have a look. For the rest, the EU is still the largest importer of Russian oil due to a loophole in sanctions, report claims. This is an ongoing issue. 5 laundromat countries that export Russian crude oil in the EU were identified by the Center of Research for Energy and Clean Air in its new report. That's China, India, Turkey, UAE, and Singapore. So what's going on basically is Russia just shipping stuff to them and them then upping the price and shipping it back to us. You know, so that's a way for them to kind of go around that. So they're going to see about cracking down on that. Not sure exactly how, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can actually manage to close that loophole somehow, you know, by either pressuring people or actually starting to sanction companies. But yeah, that would start sanctioning Chinese companies as well. We'll see what comes from that. The rest, a Belgian EU official gets shot in Sudan. Belgian EU official got in the crossfire of the RSF and the Sudanese government, who are now having a civil war, basically. The EU ambassador himself was also beaten up the day before yesterday, so that's not very nice. Here, Aidan O'Hara, a Irish ambassador, the EU envoy to Sudan, was assaulted in his home. So he was okay, but then the other guy got shot. So, you know, don't go on holiday to Sudan at the moment, is my advice. So, very nice. Dublin MEP Claire Daly told China's official state news agency that accusations of genocide against the Uyghur and other Muslim minorities in Xinjiang are complete and utter nonsense. This was actually on their TV. So, comments featured in a state TV report about the abundance of the Xinjiang cotton harvest. So, we've got some traitors in the European Parliament. That's clear, and that's clear. For the rest, the EU Parliament adopts ban on imports driving deforestation. That's good. Since trade is the purview of the European Union, according to the treaties, the European Parliament can make these kind of things, and they can be quite effective. This is for, like it says here, illegal production has spurred massive deforestation in countries such as Brazil, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, the DRC, Ethiopia, Mexico, and Guatemala. Environmental campaign groups hailed the incoming law as a good first step, but said more needed to be done. It needs the final piece of the puzzle. The European Commission must now urgently deliver a new law that would stop banks from funding deforestation, said Julia Bondi, an EU Forests campaigner at the non-governmental organization Global Witness. So, good stuff. Luxembourg PM, chastises MEP over harassment case. Xavier Bettel says he respects the Parliament's move to sanction Monica Semendo. So she will basically lose her daily allowance for 10 days for bullying her staff. So don't do that, Don't be an asshole to your staff. You need them. For the rest, leak. There was a nice leak coming out today. EU recommendation on piracy of live events disgruntles rights holders. So there's going to be a recommendation on piracy of live content, which is coming out in May. Rights holders who've been calling for mandatory measures were already disappointed by the non-binding nature of the initiative. Well, this is just it, I mean, you can't have something without having some stick behind it. Carrot and a stick, right? You can't just do everything with carrots. It doesn't work. We've been constantly been assured by the European Commission on what is illegal offline is illegal online. Yet there appears to be no urgency to enforce the rule of law in the case of piracy, despite the blatant theft of highly valuable proprietary content which is undeniably taking place. Representative of the Live Content Coalition told Euractiv. So, yeah. I'm guessing they're talking about Netflix. Yeah, so that's interesting. Worth reading up on. EU taps Lithuanian diplomat as US ambassador. So we're going to get a Lithuanian in the White House. New roster for EU ambassadors reveals Jovita Neliupsiene. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Won the job over other prominent candidates such as Martin Selmayr. Now, for those that don't know, Martin Selmayr, he was the driving force behind the last commission, basically. He was the dark horse. People really didn't like him at some point. So I think that might have worked against him. But, it's going to be interesting to see what comes from Jovita's tenure. We'll be seeing hopefully more of her. I follow some things on Twitter, for example, which are the EU delegation in the US, who always do very, very nice little events and stuff like that. But, I mean, the EU to us is something that's been more and more in the forefront of our collective conscience, when it comes to, for example, the news, when it comes to how much we get into politics in the EU. That's all on the up and up. But, for people around the world, it's still hard for them to understand what the EU does and what it is. And I'm hoping that that the EU delegation in the US takes this to heart and tries to up the profile a little bit of the EU. I mean, not just with trade events, but also with social events and human rights those kind of things. So, hopeful. And lastly, the S&P fears Nicola Sturgeon's arrest is imminent. Now, this hasn't happened yet, but we'll see. That'll be interesting, seeing where they come. Nicola Sturgeon, of course, she used to be the First Minister of Scotland, and she stepped down quite recently and quite quickly, actually, unexpectedly. And so we're now just seeing what goes on from there. They've now elected a new leader, and they're trying to get out from under this financial scandal that she and her husband are kind of caught up in. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Get that up foot, by the way. So they're trying to get out from under that now. And because it's overshadowing the actual goal of the S&P, which is to have Scotland become a separate state from the United Kingdom. So see what's kind of their goal kind of collapse is quite. I mean, it's hilarious. Yeah, so that's basically what happened today in the news. Big things, anyway. Let's have a look at the EU news website. That's the European Union. The EU news website. Green light visa-free travel for Kosovo. AI research hub is coming. And caught short at 35,000 feet of plane forced to turn back after the toilets malfunctioned. I think that's an Austrian airline, where 5 of the 8 toilets on board malfunctioned and they had to turn back on a flight to New York. Yeah, that's not the place you want to be in. So, yeah, and that's the news for today. Let's have a look. Is anyone here? Let's see. I'd like to open up the floor if anyone wants to talk about the news. Just raise your hand in the Discord. You can just go, you can right click, or there's a little hand icon at the bottom which you can raise, and then you can talk. And otherwise, I'll have to see what we do tomorrow. So, we'll see. Well, thanks very much for listening. I think tomorrow we'll do the same thing. I'll just go through the news, the recent news, and then we can talk about it. So thanks very much for listening. All right, good night.